Today is the Hillula of Rabbi Yehuda Fetaya, full name Rabbi Yehuda Fetaya. He was born in Baghdad, 2nd of Shevat, 7th of January, 1859. He grew up, and already at 17 he was a genius. He started Gemara, so he went to Zohar. By the time he was 17, he already mastered it, basically. So much so that Rav Abdullah Samech saw him and said, "This is a genius." So at age 17, he already got rabbinical status, became a rabbi at 17. He was a very big Baal Chesed. His house open to everyone whenever they needed. It was an open door policy. Anytime they needed something, they came. So much so that when the Tigris River flooded, many Jewish families came to him, to his house, and lived by him. There was one family that lived over there for more than a year, and he took care of them. Anything they needed food, they needed emotional support, anything they needed, he helped them. He tried many times to migrate from Baghdad to Israel. 3 times he tried. The 3rd time he was successful. He made Aliyah. And whenever he went to Israel, he got very famous very quickly. He was visited by many orphans, by many widows, and many people that had unfortunate tragedies in their life. And he dealt a lot with Kabbalah, a lot with Kameot. Anytime they needed something, he made them a Kamea. And anytime he wrote a Kamea, he would fast that day. And he did a lot of Kameot. It wasn't just 1, 2. He fasted many times. It was many times which throughout his life he prayed constantly for the Jewish people. It was especially whenever Hitler came into power. He was alive whenever Hitler came into power. Hitler came to power, he used to go to the Ma'arat al-Machpelah and Kever Rachel. He used to pray over there constantly. It was very difficult for him because he was already old, but he said, Am Yisrael needs this, I need to pray. So he went for the zchut of the Avot and the Imaot. He went to the Kever. He passed away at age 83 on the 27th of Av, on August 10th, 1942. He was buried in Har Zaitim and Mount Olives, and many people said many stories of him, how he was a very nice person. Everything they needed, they came. They came, and he treated them like part of the family. And anytime they would ask him of something, ask him for a kameh, ask him for a bracha, ask him for even they didn't ask, he gave it himself. He gave the emotional support. He never charged anything. He never charged money for any of his teachings, any of his support, anything that he gave. He wrote many sfarim, very nice sfarim, on many of them on mysticism, on the Zohar. He wrote Matok Lidvash, Matok Lenefesh. He wrote Yayin haRekhach on the Zohar, commentary on the Zohar, and parts of the Zohar. Lechem Yehuda on Etz Chaim of Rav Chaim Vital. Also other Sfarim he wrote was Ateret Rachel on Pekei Avot, and Ketel Tzadikon on the Ketel Tzadik on the Chumash. And he wrote many other Sfarim. Some of them are not even published yet. One of the very important, very popular books, even translated in English, that he has, is Minchat Yehuda. This is a book, you read it, it's a miracle. It's amazing how it was translated. How it was translated to English. Usually these type of Sfarim would never get translated. But this is translated. Minchat Yehuda, it covers topics, usually just it's a little bit on basics, on just little commentary, but sometimes it goes even deeper. It encompasses basically the whole Pardes, in Pshat, the Remez, Drash, Sod. It's commentary on the Tanakh, on the Zohar, on Pirkei Avot a little bit, mainly on the Tanakh, but a little bit on Zohar, a little bit on Pirkei Avot, and other Sfarim Kedoshim, and also Shara Gilgulim. Goes into details about certain subjects like reincarnations, dreams, what happens after death, especially after the death of tzaddikim, on the mysticism of the Hebrew letters, and more. He says a lot more things on it. There was a few stories that he said. For one example, he spoke about dreams. And in the dreams, he says sometimes he's explaining in Parashat Miketz on how to differentiate between if a dream was from a malach or from a demon. Now, he explains there are certain demons that don't just. Usually, he said that the demons just like to scare people. Some they whisper in the person's ear, and they just get enjoyment from the guy getting scared at night. Their heart races, everything, and they just like to enjoy his suffering. There are some demons that don't try to make someone scared. They act like they're tzaddikim. They come dressed as the avot, sometimes as Eliyahu Navi. So he explains. He says that if one comes to a person to figure out if it's really one of these tzaddikim, the avot, the Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, or Eliyahu Navi, or another great tzaddik, he has to ask him straightforward: are you Eliyahu Navi, or are you one of these big tzaddikim? So not only that, they're gonna try to convince you so much. They're gonna start showing you images of the Kisei HaKavod and all these type of crazy things. There was one time, he explains, in the year 1911, says that there was one boy, that it was a small boy, 11 years old, not so old, young boy, that he says that he was speaking to Eliyahu Navi face to face, and he was telling this to Rabbi Yehuda Fetaya. So Rabbi Yehuda Fetaya automatically thought about this. He said, okay, fine, we need to figure out if this is really Eliyahu Navi. So he says, go and tell him, are you really Eliyahu Navi? So he says, the boy goes to the room. He asks, Eliyahu, that person that says that he's Eliyahu, the thing that came to him, he says, of course I'm Eliyahu. Why would Rabbi Yehuda Fetaya have any doubt? So he told Rabbi Yehuda Fetaya, he says, I already know that it's not Eliyahu Navi, it's just a demon that's named Eliyahu. He's just pretending to be the Navi. So he says, how do you know? He says, the way, what he told me, what he showed me, what he did, what he did, as far as I see, he's Eliyahu Navi. So he says, okay, fine, I'll say this one prayer, and B'ezrat Hashem, he's not gonna show up again. So it's okay, do whatever you want. It's okay, fine. He prayed from him the same prayer 3 times. Prayed, so that this Eliyahu wouldn't appear anymore. And to his surprise, the Eliyahu came back. So he said, okay, if I needed more help, he went to a great tzaddik at the time, Rav Shimon Aaron Agassi, and he asked him. He was examining it, he saw everything was going on, and he said, Kvod Harav, this is Eliyahu Navi. Rav Yehuda didn't believe him. He says, no, it can't be. He didn't agree with him. And so they disagreed, both of them. So they went to Rav Yaakov Chaim, the son of Rav Yosef Chaim, the Ben Ish Chai. They said, and he also examined it, he also tested it out, and he says, this is Eliyahu Navi. Rav Yehuda still says, this is not, it's not him. So Rav Fetaya tells the boy, he says, I know how to do it. Ask Eliyahu Navi to translate a verse in Yirmiyahu. That's Perek 10, Pasuk 11. He said, this is the Pasuk. Thus shall you say to them, the gods that have not made the heavens and the earth will be eradicated from the earth and from under these heavens. So give this Pasuk and tell him to translate it. If he translates it, then he's Eliyahu Navi. So the boy went to Eliyahu and he gave him this Pasuk. He says, translate it for me. Eliyahu tells him, I'm sorry, I can't stay, I have to go. I'm very important. I have very, very important things to do. I have to count the mitzvot of Am Yisrael. I have to go. The boy said it to Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says, you have to tell him to translate this, or else I'm not going to believe him. He goes back. He says, "What? I told you, I can't stay here. I have to go. I can't translate this pasuk." So Rav Yehuda tells the boy. He says he could have translated the pasuk many times. What's with all this thing of I have to go? He's not even going. Tell him to translate this. Without translating, he has to translate it. He has to translate this. We will not do anything until he translates this. The boy goes over to him again. He says, Eliyahu, I'm sorry. The Rabbanim, the 3 Rabbanim insist that you have to say this pasuk. You have to give the Aramaic translation. Eliyahu got upset. He says, as Hashem lives, I will no longer appear to you, since you do not believe that I am Eliyahu Navi. And he left, and he never came back to this boy. After this Eliyahu left, after he left, the Chachamim said to Rabbi Yehuda Fetaya, they said, you see, I told you it was him. As we see, because we know that Eliyahu Navi has the way of saying, as Hashem, as God lives. He has the way of saying that, as Hashem lives, all the times he says it. So, and also not only that, it says in Masechet Megillah that in Masechet Megillah it says that demons don't express Hashem's name for no reason. So it cannot be that it was a demon. Rav Fetaya tells them it was a demon. I know for a fact. Why? I could explain to you simply. First of all, he said that he's never going to come back. He didn't come back, so he didn't say it for no reason. He kept his word. That's first of all. Second of all, Eliyahu Navi says, whenever he says as God lives, he says the name of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. He uses the actual name. This demon didn't say Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Didn't say as God lives, as the name of God. He says as Hashem. He used the word Hashem. So because of this, he's a fake. He's not Eliyahu Navi. So the Chachamim understood and they said, you know what? You're right. You're right. This wasn't Eliyahu Navi. This was the genius of Rabbi Yehuda Fetaya, how he understood. He was able to take the small parts and figure it out, not just let everything pass by his head. There was once another story that he said about a very big tzaddik that used to fast he used to fast every day from Sunday through Friday. On Shabbat he ate, but on Shabbat he had problems with his stomach. He ate, but it was very difficult for his body. It's very difficult. So he says, you know what? B'ezrat Hashem, if the Rabbanim allow me, I'm going to fast on Shabbat also. So before he could go to the Rabbanim and ask if he could fast on Shabbat also, he had a dream that two people came to him with nice fruits and other vegetables, and they said, please come eat, come join us. He said, I'm sorry, I don't want to eat, because he thought he was fasting. He didn't realize it was a dream at that time. He said, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to eat. They were saying, please eat. They were insisting, eat. He says, I'm not going to eat. Under any circumstances, I'm not going to eat. These two men got angry. They got upset. They said to their servants, they say, take these dishes away, because this man doesn't want the resurrection of the dead. He wakes up. He was so scared because he understood. He said, this is a story. They just said he doesn't want to be part of the. He doesn't want to resurrect the dead. He doesn't want to be part of it. He got scared. He didn't know what to do. So he went over to Rabbi Yehuda, and he asked. He says, what do I do? So he said that you're fasting so much that whenever a soul goes to Shamayim and he has some type of problem, he gets into a Gilgul. Sometimes you get into Gilgul, into a reincarnation of a fruit or a vegetable, some type of either if it's a mineral or something that grows, a fruit, a vegetable, or something that grows from the ground, or if it's an animal. So whenever the souls are in this food, they want you to, you're a tzaddik, so they want you to say brachot. So because you fast so much, you actually cause a lot of problems. Since you don't eat anything, these souls, they want to get redeemed. So because you don't eat, now you don't want to eat at all. So now that's why they sent you in Shamayim. They say you have fasted too much. You have fasted enough. Now from now on you have to eat. You cannot fast anymore. So now your job is not to fast, it's to redeem all these souls. Any fruit you can get, any time you can eat, try to eat and redeem these souls. There's a remez to this in the Torah, in Parshat Ekev. It actually speaks about it. This is in Deuteronomy 8:3, and it says that not by bread alone does man live, rather by what emanates from God's mouth. So it says, what does it mean by not by bread alone does man live? Meaning that not by eating the bread alone, which is without a blessing, without a bracha, does man live. Which man? The man that was inside of the bread. Rather, he only lives on, he only gets the rectification when it's what emanates from God's mouth. Whenever Hashem said do the bracha, He said the mitzvah is to make a bracha before you eat. So because of that, the only way he gets to live, he gets to move on, the soul gets to move on, is if the person that's eating it says the bracha, so that he can move on. He could move on to the next stage of the rectification. There was also another story, which there was a woman that came. There was a pregnant woman that came to Rabbi Yehuda Fetaya, and she had a dream of her husband going to the cemetery, and then out of nowhere she sees him dragging a body into the house. She's scared. She says, what is happening? What are you doing? He's ignoring her, and she sees from the face, she sees that it's her husband's brother. She says, what are you doing? He's ignoring her, and he brings him upstairs and puts him in the attic and buries him in the attic. She has no idea what's going on. She wakes up. She goes to Rabbi Yehuda Fetaya. She says, I don't understand this dream. What is this dream? What does this mean? So he asks her, he asks, how many steps are from the bottom of from the first floor of your house to the roof? He says, I don't know, maybe there's I'm not sure, I don't know how many steps. Rabbi Yehuda Fetaya, in his mind, in his greatness, he says, in my opinion, there are 9 steps. He says, nah, it's impossible. There's maybe like 12, maybe a little bit more. So, okay, you know what? No problem. We cannot continue until you go home and count the steps and then come back. So, okay, fine. She goes home. She counts, comes back. She laughs. She said, Kadosh Baruch Hu revealed it to you. 100% right. There was 9 steps. I said, okay, fine. I'll interpret the dream for you. He says, you are pregnant with a boy, and he is the reincarnation of his uncle, and you should name the child after the uncle. He said, because you got this dream because you were informed, you were being told that you will complete this 9 months, which are the remez, which are the connection with the 9 steps, and it will be okay. You will not miscarry. The child would live and not have the same thing how the uncle died. And he will not, since the uncle in the dream did not go back to the cemetery, he wasn't brought back to the cemetery. Same way, the son will not be brought to the cemetery like the uncle. So after the interpretation, 9 months passed, and the kid was born, named after the uncle. She came to Rabbi Yehuda Fetaya and said, thank you very much. Thank you for revealing this information to me. So, going back to the thing with the Gilgulim, we see how it's important for even in the book he says it's very important that whenever someone is to redeem a neshama that's in a fruit or in a food to make a bracha on, he gives other steps inside the book, inside the Sfarim that he writes. One thing that he says it's very important for a person, it's very important that the person that's making the tikkun to be a tzaddik, because if he's a rasha, making the bracha or eating the fruit, sometimes it's not only doesn't help him, it's damaging for him. Especially that is very important for a person to make bracha, the correct bracha. Because one time there was a woman that found a fig one time in her house, and she wasn't so learned, so she made the bracha b'roi pri ha'adama. That night she had a dream, and there was a soul that came to her and said, thank you very much. You helped me. You helped me a lot. The problem is you didn't do it correctly. You didn't do it fully. Why? Because the bracha is not borei pnei adama. It's borei pnei etz. But even though it still comes from the ground, so it's still valid, it still was good enough, and I got helped a little bit. It helped me a little bit. Thank you very much. So, see that it's a very important thing to make the right bracha and to have the right intention. And not only that, to be a righteous Jew, to be a kosher, righteous Jew that follows the mitzvot, follows the Torah, and that soul will be elevated and will be redeemed and be rectified through that bracha. It's very important to have the right kavanah and to say it slowly, nicely, the brachot, and not to just jump over it, to say word by word, say the right bracha. And Baruch Hashem, Bezrat Hashem, B'zchut Tzaddik, B'zchut his ma'asav, and his Kiddusha, his Torah that he taught, his many Sfarim, his Torah that he left for us to learn. Bezrat Hashem, with his zchut, and the Mashiach will come, the Hillula will come, and